The photographer called me and said he had noticed something very disturbing in the wedding photos. I was 62 years old, 3 hardware stores deep into a life I'd built with my hands, when a phone call from a stranger rearranged everything I thought I knew about my own family. It was a Tuesday, quiet morning in Paradise Valley. I had my coffee, my financial reports spread across the desk, the July sun already pressing against the windows. 40 years of Whitaker hardware, 3 locations across Phoenix, and I still reviewed every number myself. That's the kind of man I was, hands on everything, blind to what mattered most. The phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. I almost let it go. I wish I had, and I'm grateful I didn't, both at the same time. Mr. Grant Whitaker, a woman's voice, tight, careful. This is Diane Miller. I photographed your daughter's wedding last month. I need to see you, immediately, alone. She paused and I could hear her breathing, like she was forcing herself to keep talking. Please don't tell your daughter. My hand tightened around the phone. What's wrong? I can't explain over the phone, but I found something in the photographs, something very serious. The air in my office changed, thinner somehow, harder to pull in. What kind of something? Tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, my studio downtown. Please, Mr. Whitaker, come alone. Before I could ask anything else, Ashley's voice exploded from the kitchen. My youngest daughter, 31 years old and living in my house for 4 years now. Temporarily, she'd said when she moved in after her divorce. Her boyfriend Tyler had followed 6 months later. No rent, no timeline, no end in sight. Dad, I told you 3 times already. I need that car. The Honda is embarrassing. You promised you'd ask about it today. Tyler's laugh rumbled from the living room, my television blaring beneath it. I'll be there, I said into the phone, barely hearing myself. Diane exhaled. Thank you. I'm so sorry, Mr. Whitaker. I really am. She hung up. I sat motionless, phone still pressed to my ear, staring at the framed photograph on my wall. Natalie in her wedding dress, radiant. Ryan beside her in his tuxedo. 1 month ago, $65,000 I'd spent on that day. Worth every penny to see my eldest daughter happy. That's what I'd told myself. Something very serious in the photographs. Dad. Ashley appeared in my doorway, phone in one hand, car keys in the other. Did you hear me? I need money for a new car. The Honda is 7 years old and it's humiliating. Lauren got a new Lexus and I can't keep showing up in that piece of junk. I looked at my youngest daughter. Really looked at her. The entitlement was so natural on her face it barely registered anymore. Like wallpaper you stop seeing. We'll talk about it later, sweetheart. Later never comes with you. Later, Ashley? She huffed and disappeared. Her footsteps stomped up the stairs. A door slammed hard enough to shake the hallway photos. I picked up my coffee. Cold now. Through my office window, the Paradise Valley morning stretched bright and cloudless. Everything looked normal. Everything felt wrong. The day crawled. I tried focusing on inventory reports, payroll, quarterly projections. My mind kept circling back to Diane's trembling voice. The wedding had been perfect, hadn't it? Natalie had glowed. Ryan had been attentive, charming, shaking hands with every guest like he was running for office. The ceremony at the Botanical Gardens, the reception at the resort, elegant, tasteful, expensive, every detail curated by Natalie herself. What could possibly be wrong with the photographs? Around noon, Tyler wandered into my office without knocking. Never knocked. Just walked in like he owned the place. 38 years old, no job, living off my daughter's allowance, which meant living off me. Hey, Pops. Ashley says you're being weird about the car thing. Maybe just give her the money. Keep the peace. He leaned against my doorframe, arms crossed, like a man with advice instead of a man without income. Happy wife, happy life, right? He'd never married Ashley. 4 years together, living in my house, eating my food, using my electricity, and he couldn't be bothered to make it official. But he had opinions about how I should spend my money. Tyler, I'm working. Sure, just saying. He grinned and left. I stood and walked to my window. Below, the pool sparkled unused. The guest house where Ashley and Tyler stayed sat at the far edge of the property, Separate entrance, full kitchen, 2 bedrooms. I'd built it thinking grandchildren might use it someday. No grandchildren, just 2 adults who treated my property like a free resort and my patience like a renewable resource. The afternoon bled into evening. I heated leftover pasta, ate alone at the counter while Tyler occupied my living room and Ashley video called someone upstairs, her laugh piercing through the ceiling like a drill. At 7:30, my doorbell rang. Natalie stood on my front step looking flawless. Tailored blazer, designer jeans, that warm smile she'd inherited from her mother. My eldest, my successful one, marketing executive, recently married to Ryan Parker, investment banker. Everything I'd wanted for her, everything I thought she deserved. "Hi, Daddy." She kissed my cheek and walked past me. I was in the neighborhood, thought I'd stop by. Paradise Valley to her place in Scottsdale wasn't exactly the neighborhood, but I didn't mention it. She settled onto my couch, crossed her legs, scanned the living room like she was appraising it for resale value. "You look tired, Dad. How are you?" "Long day. Business things." She picked up a framed photo from the side table, her and Ashley as children, studied it, set it back slightly off-center, a territorial gesture I'd never noticed before. Or maybe I had noticed and just never let myself think about what it meant. Ryan and I have been house hunting. We found the most incredible place in Scottsdale. 4 bedrooms, pool, mountain views, absolutely perfect. She smiled warmly. "The thing is, we need to move fast. Market's competitive. We need help with the down payment." She let the pause sit there for one perfect beat, then said it like she was asking to borrow a cup of sugar. 40,000. Something in my chest tightened. That hollow feeling from the phone call expanded. 40,000, I repeated. "Is that a problem?" A slight edge entered her voice, so slight most people wouldn't catch it. "Dad, I thought you'd want to help us start our life together properly." I looked at my daughter, the designer clothes, the manicured nails, the practiced warmth that didn't quite reach her eyes. When had I stopped noticing that distance? Or had it always been there, and I just kept paying enough to not have to see it? "Let me think about it, sweetheart." Her smile faltered for a fraction of a second. "Think about it. Dad, this is important. Ryan and I need to move on this." "I need to review some things first." She stood abruptly, grabbed her purse, kissed my cheek again, colder this time, the way you stamp an invoice. "Fine, but don't take too long. We can't lose this house. Love you, Daddy. Call me soon." I watched her Mercedes pull away from my doorway. $40,000 delivered like I'd already agreed, like my money was her money, like my whole function in her life was to fund whatever she decided she wanted next. Tyler's laughter echoed from the living room, sports highlights on my television, his beer bottle sweating onto my coffee table without a coaster. I walked inside and something shifted. The house felt different. Or maybe I was finally seeing it clearly, after years of comfortable blindness. Diane's number still sat in my call log. Whatever she'd found in those photographs, I had a growing feeling it connected to this hollow sensation spreading through my chest, like a crack running through old concrete. My phone buzzed, text from Natalie. "Thanks for understanding about the house, Dad. Love you." I hadn't agreed to anything, but she'd assumed. They all assumed. Every single time. I left the house before dawn. Didn't want questions from Ashley. Didn't want Tyler asking where I was going with that entitled look he got, like everything I did required his approval in my own home. The drive to downtown Phoenix took 25 minutes. I-51 south, surface streets to the Arts District. Diane's studio was a converted warehouse with exposed brick and tall windows, her name on a brass plate beside the door. I parked across the street and sat in my truck for a long moment, engine ticking as it cooled. Whatever waited inside that studio would change things. I knew it the way you know weather is coming before the sky shifts. I went in. The studio smelled like coffee and printer ink. Professional photographs lined the walls. Weddings, families, corporate shots. Diane met me at the door. Younger than I'd remembered from the wedding day. Mid-40s maybe. Nervous hands, apologetic eyes. "Mr. Whitaker, thank you for coming." She locked the door behind me. "I have everything set up in the editing room." I followed her to a smaller room. Large monitor, computer equipment, wedding portfolios stacked on shelves. Morning light filtered through dusty glass overlooking an alley. "Can I get you coffee? Water?" "I'm fine." I wasn't. "Please just show me." She sat at her computer. I remained standing behind her chair. "Mr. Whitaker, I almost didn't call. I went back and forth for days, but if I were in your position, I'd want to know I didn't go looking for this. Show me." Her fingers moved across the keyboard. The monitor filled with images from the wedding, the ceremony, Natalie walking down the aisle, Ryan waiting at the altar, guests smiling, everything beautiful, everything expensive, everything apparently perfect. "These are the standard shots," she said softly. "What you saw at the wedding. What everyone saw." She clicked to another folder. 2 hours before the ceremony. I was at the venue early, testing exposures, calibrating equipment. There's a terrace overlooking the courtyard. Another click. My hands gripped the back of her chair. Ryan, my son-in-law, in his tuxedo, not yet buttoned properly, pressed against a woman with red hair. Not my daughter. Kissing her, his hands tangled in her hair, her arms wrapped around his neck. Not a friendly embrace, not a goodbye to an old friend. Intimate, possessive, familiar. The kind of kiss between two people who have done this many, many times before and plan to keep doing it. "How long before the ceremony?" My voice sounded far away, like someone else was using it. "You're certain about the time?" 2 hours before, the metadata is here. She pulled up a technical display, numbers, timestamps, GPS coordinates. I captured this by accident while testing lens angles through a window. But it's real, and there are multiple shots. She clicked forward. Different angles, same scene. Ryan and the red-haired woman locked together. In one photo, the woman's left hand was visible, pressed flat against Ryan's chest. A wedding ring, gold band, diamond. This woman was already married to someone else, and Ryan would be married to my daughter in approximately 2 hours. "Do you know who she is?" Diane shook her head. "I don't recognize her from the guest list." "I'm so sorry, Mr. Whitaker." She pulled up another image. This one showed Ryan's face clearly. No confusion in his expression, no drunken stumble, no panic, no guilt, just confidence, control. A man who knew exactly what he was doing 2 hours before, standing at an altar and promising to love my daughter for the rest of his life. My knees went soft. The room tilted slightly, then righted itself. "Can you prove the timing? Absolutely prove it?" Diane opened another window. Digital fingerprints, file information, GPS coordinates matching the venue location, timestamps down to the second. "This is forensic-level evidence, Mr. Whitaker. It would hold up anywhere." She reached into her desk drawer and pulled out a small flash drive. "Everything is here. All the photos, all the metadata, technical documentation. I made copies." She held it out. "I don't know what you'll do with this information, but I believe you should have it." I took the flash drive, closed my fist around it so tight the edges bit into my palm. "Don't apologize. You did the right thing." The drive back to Paradise Valley passed in a blur. I gripped the steering wheel, but my mind was somewhere else entirely. Ryan Parker, polished, articulate, successful. Everything I'd wanted for my daughter. Kissing another married woman 2 hours before their wedding. Not a mistake. Not cold feet. Calculated. Deliberate. Practiced. Why marry Natalie at all? The question circled my thoughts like something with teeth. Why go through with a $65,000 wedding to a woman you were betraying hours before the ceremony? Why make those vows? Why smile in those photos? Why take the ring, say the words, cut the cake? Unless the vows didn't matter, unless the money did. My stomach turned. I pulled into my driveway just after 11. Tyler was sprawled across my leather recliner, beer in hand, game show blaring. Didn't look up. "Hey, old man, grab me another beer while you're up." From upstairs, Ashley's voice. "Dad, is that you? I need to talk to you about money for the spa this weekend." I stood in my own entryway, flash drive in my pocket, and something that had been bending inside me for years finally cracked. My daughter's husband cheating 2 hours before the ceremony. My other daughter demanding spa money from the second floor. Her boyfriend ordering me to bring him beer while sitting in my chair in my house watching my television. I closed the door behind me with a quiet click. They thought I was the same man who'd left that morning. They were wrong. Sleep was impossible. I sat in my office past midnight, flash drive on the desk beside my laptop. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ryan's face. Not guilty, not confused, confident. I opened the laptop and pulled up the wedding budget spreadsheet. $65,000. Venue, catering, photographer, flowers, band, dress. Everything Natalie wanted, and she'd wanted all of it. But she'd insisted on one thing specifically. Cash gifts, no registry, no china patterns, no toasters. Dad, we're starting fresh. We need flexibility. Cash is more practical. I'd thought she was being mature, sensible. Now that word tasted different in my mouth. The guest list had been 200 people. Mostly my business associates, my friends, people who'd known Natalie since childhood. People who respected me enough to come with generous envelopes. At the reception, the gift table had overflowed. Natalie had hired someone specifically to collect, count, and catalog every single one. $45,000 in cash and checks. She'd told me the total the week after, laughing on the phone. Ryan and I are so blessed, Dad. Everyone was so generous. I wrote that number down, circled it. Then I remembered something that hit different now. My business partner, Daniel Brooks, had handed Ryan a check directly at the reception. Welcome to the family, son. Start your life right. $15,000. I'd been standing right there when it happened. Ryan had pocketed that check and smiled warmly. Thank you, sir. We won't forget this. $60,000 total from one wedding. For a couple supposedly starting out. For a man who was kissing another woman 2 hours before saying his vows. The night dragged. I made coffee at 3 in the morning, stood at the kitchen window watching the dark desert hills. Somewhere in Scottsdale, Natalie slept beside the man who'd betrayed her before they'd even exchanged rings. Or maybe she knew. Maybe she didn't care. That thought was worse than the first. At 7, I showered, dressed, left before Ashley woke. The bank opened at 9, downtown Phoenix branch where I did my business banking. Susan Carter, the manager, greeted me in her office. We'd worked together 15 years. Mr. Whitaker, what brings you in? I wanted to verify a check, I wrote. Wedding gift for my daughter, $20,000, want to make sure it cleared properly. Susan pulled it up on her screen. Yes, here it is. Joint account, Ryan and Natalie Parker, cleared without issues. Joint account, I said casually. When did they open that? She scrolled. Looks like May 10th. 2 months before the wedding, not years. Not when they got engaged. 2 months. They'd opened a joint account specifically to receive wedding money. Planned it, coordinated it, timed it. This wasn't romance, this was logistics. I thanked Susan and left. In my truck, I sat with the engine running and the pieces clicking together. May 10th. A joint account opened with surgical timing, cash-only gifts. A hired person to collect every envelope. $60,000 flowing into one place. I drove home with my mind churning. The house looked quiet. Tyler's car in the driveway, old Camry he refused to maintain, always asking for money to fix it. I entered through the garage, planned to go straight to my office. Then I heard Ashley's voice from upstairs. Phone conversation, volume too loud. The way she always talked, like the whole house was her audience. Yeah, Dad looks suspicious lately. Her voice carried down from the second floor landing. I don't know, different somehow, but don't worry, sis. Tyler and I can stretch this another 6 months easy. By then, he'll cave and buy us that condo just to get rid of us. I froze in the hallway. Natalie's voice came through the phone speaker. Ashley had it on high volume, both of them laughing. Perfect. I've got 2 more months of playing happy wife, then I file. Half those gifts are legally mine in Arizona. Ryan already agreed to 60-40 split. Easiest $45,000 I ever made. My hand found the wall. I pressed my palm flat against it to keep standing. Ashley laughed. And Ryan's little girlfriend doesn't even know about the plan. This is perfect. Dad's so busy feeling proud of your marriage, he doesn't see anything. Keep him distracted, Natalie said. Her voice was light, casual, like she was discussing weekend plans. Make him think you need something big. That way when I ask for the house down payment, it won't seem excessive by comparison. Already on it. Asked him for a new car yesterday. He looked annoyed, but he'll come around. He always does. He always does. I backed away, silent, careful, each step measured until I reached my office, closed the door, leaned against it. My hands were shaking. 2 daughters, both lying, both using me. One planning a divorce to steal wedding money she'd collected from my friends and business partners. The other, squatting in my house, running out the clock until I bought her off, coordinating, laughing about it on speakerphone with the volume turned up because they didn't even respect me enough to whisper. Playing happy wife, easiest $45,000 I ever made. He always does. I'd almost written that $40,000 check for the down payment, almost handed over another chunk of my life savings to fund the next phase of their scheme. Almost. I sat at my computer and typed, "Property lawyer, Phoenix, Arizona." Thomas Reynolds' name appeared third in the results. 25 years experience. Real estate law, family trusts, asset protection. His office had an opening the next morning at 9. I made the appointment. Then I sat back and looked at my closed office door. Beyond it, Ashley was probably still on the phone. Tyler was probably planted on my couch, both comfortable, both confident, both certain that the man downstairs would keep writing checks until he ran out of money or breath. They had no idea what was coming. I didn't either, not exactly, but tomorrow I'd start finding out. Tomorrow I'd become something other than a wallet with a heartbeat. Reynolds' office was on the 23rd floor of a glass building downtown. I arrived 10 minutes early and spent them in the parking garage organizing my folder. Wedding spreadsheet, flash drive from Diane, 3 pages of handwritten notes, timelines, dollar amounts, quotes, evidence. The kind of file you build when your family turns out to be a business arrangement you were never told about. The elevator ride felt longer than it should have. I'd made business decisions for 40 years, negotiated supplier contracts, handled employee disputes, weathered economic downturns. This shouldn't have felt different, but it did. This was my family, my daughters, the 2 people I'd spent my entire adult life trying to protect and provide for. The elevator doors opened. No, not family, not anymore. They'd made that choice when they turned me into a transaction. Reynolds stood as I entered. 50s, grey at the temples, firm handshake, professional space, mahogany desk, law books, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city sprawl. "Mr. Whitaker, please tell me what's happening." I placed my manila folder on his desk. A month ago, I paid $65,000 for my daughter's wedding. 3 days ago, the photographer showed me pictures of my son-in-law with another woman 2 hours before the ceremony. Yesterday, I discovered my daughters planned the whole thing. The marriage was a scam to collect cash gifts and split them. Reynolds' pen paused over his legal pad. "When you say planned, you have evidence." I overheard my younger daughter on the phone with her sister. Direct quote, "2 more months and I file. Half the gifts are legally mine. Ryan already agreed to 60-40. Those were her exact words. I slid the flash drive across his desk. The affair photos are here. Metadata, timestamps, GPS, everything. Reynolds clicked through the files. His expression didn't change, but his jaw tightened slightly. "And your younger daughter? Living in my house 4 years, boyfriend with her, no rent, no lease, constant demands. Yesterday she told Natalie they'd stretch it another 6 months until I bought them a condo, just to get rid of them." Reynolds made notes, circled specific details, underlined 4 years and no lease. "In Arizona, property law is very clear. Your house is your property. Without a written rental agreement, you can begin eviction proceedings. Standard timeline is 30 days after written notice." Can they fight it? Not successfully. Without a lease, they're essentially guests who overstayed. The 30-day notice is a courtesy, not a negotiation. Something loosened in my chest. A courtesy, not a negotiation. I'd been treating them like family for 4 years. The law saw it differently. What about the rest, my assets, my business? I don't want them getting anything when I'm gone. They've made it clear I'm just a resource to them. Reynolds closed the property code book he'd opened. That's where an irrevocable trust becomes valuable. We transfer everything into a trust with a professional trustee. You maintain full control during your lifetime. After death, distribution follows your exact instructions. Nearly impossible to challenge if structured correctly. I sat back. How soon? Today. Eviction notices drafted by Friday. Trust creation, 2 to 3 weeks. He slid an engagement agreement across his desk. My fees for the full package eviction, will revision and complete trust creation, $8,500. I'd spent $65,000 on a fake wedding. Another $45,000 collected by my daughter and her accomplice husband. Tens of thousands more over 4 years feeding Ashley and Tyler. $8,500 to protect everything I had left sounded like the best deal I'd made in years. That's acceptable. I signed with a steady hand. Mr. Whitaker, Reynolds said as I stood, this will likely destroy your relationship with your daughters permanently. Once you serve those notices, once they discover the trust, there's no walking this back. I thought about Ashley's laugh on the phone, Natalie's casual cruelty. Easiest $45,000 I ever made. He always does. They destroyed the relationship themselves. I'm just acknowledging reality. We shook hands. I left with copies of everything. In the parking garage, my phone buzzed. Text from Natalie. Dad, did you think about the down payment? We really need an answer. The house won't wait forever. $40,000 for a house she'd live in for 2 months before filing for divorce. I deleted the text without responding. The envelopes arrived Friday morning. Reynolds's return address, heavy paper, official seals. I set them on my desk and looked at them most of the day. By evening, I was ready. Tyler's voice carried from the living room, excited, animated. Another pitch. Craft breweries are huge right now. Phoenix market is perfect. We'd need about $30,000 to start. Your dad would see returns in a year, easy. Ashley laughed. He'll do it. He always does. Just frame it as helping family and he'll write the check. I stepped into the room. They looked up, smiling, expecting nothing. I placed the envelopes on the coffee table. What's this? Ashley picked up hers. Official eviction notice. You have 30 days to find other housing. The words landed like stones dropped into still water. Ashley tore open her envelope, read the heading, and her face drained of color. Tyler grabbed his, scanned it, then shot to his feet so fast his beer tipped across my coffee table. Have you lost your mind, old man? This is our home. This is my house. You have 30 days. You can't just kick us out like we're strangers. We're family. Ashley's tears started right on schedule. Dad, what are you doing? I'm your daughter. How can you throw us out? You haven't paid rent in 4 years. You don't respect me. You see me as a wallet. I kept my voice level, measured, the same tone I used with suppliers who tried to raise prices without warning. Time to grow up. Tyler moved closer, fists clenched, chest out. Old intimidation tactic. The same posture he used whenever someone challenged his comfort. Everyone will know what kind of father you are. Throwing out your own kid. The notice is legal. 30 days. Start packing. Dad, please. Ashley grabbed my arm. We can work this out. We'll pay rent. I removed her hand, gently but firmly, turned toward the hallway. You'll regret this. Tyler's voice followed me like a threat he couldn't cash. You'll regret this. I walked to my office, closed the door, locked it with an audible click. Behind me, chaos erupted. Ashley's wailing, Tyler's shouting, furniture scraping across the floor. I sat at my desk and listened. 10 minutes passed. The shouting subsided into urgent whispers. Then Ashley's voice again, higher, phone call. He gave us eviction papers. 30 days. Pause. Natalie responding on the other end. I don't know what happened. He was cold, like we were strangers. Longer pause. Okay, yes, tomorrow? Bring Ryan, we'll figure this out. Then Tyler's voice, lower but venomous. He's going to regret this. I moved back to my desk and opened my laptop. Reynolds had sent the trust creation paperwork that afternoon. They thought this was about the guest house, about hurt feelings and family drama. They had no idea I was building a legal wall around everything I'd ever earned. My phone buzzed. Text from Natalie. "Dad, Ashley called me. We need to talk, coming over tomorrow with Ryan. This has gone too far." I read it twice. They were regrouping, coordinating, preparing their counterattack, the same way they'd coordinated the wedding. The same way they'd coordinated the phone call I'd overheard. Efficient, strategic, completely devoid of any actual concern for the man they were planning to drain. Let them come. I pulled up my calendar and marked the date. Day 1 of 30. The clock had started, and this time I was the one counting. The next morning, Ashley came downstairs in her bathrobe and collapsed across the couch with the back of her hand pressed to her forehead. "Dad." Her voice was thin, theatrical. "I can't get up. My heart is racing. The stress from this eviction, I think you should call a doctor." Tyler hovered nearby, arms crossed, protective stance, both of them watching me the way you watch a mark, not a father. Gauging the reaction, waiting to see which lever still worked. I walked past them to the kitchen. "There's cold medicine in the cabinet." Behind me, silence. Then Ashley's frustrated exhale. I poured coffee and carried it to my office. Closed the door. 28 days left. Sunday afternoon, Tyler found me in the garage and blocked the doorway with his body, close enough that I could smell the beer on his breath at 2 in the afternoon. "You know what people will say, right?" His face was inches from mine. "That you threw out your own daughter, your pregnant daughter." Ashley wasn't pregnant, just another lie stacked on top of the pile. "The eviction is legal. You have 26 days. Now move." He didn't. We stood there for 10 seconds. 20. His jaw working, fists clenching and unclenching. I watched his eyes calculate whether this was the moment to swing. Something in my expression must have told him it wasn't worth it, because he finally stepped aside. I got in my truck and drove to the hardware store. Stayed for 3 hours, reviewing inventory, talking to managers, being anywhere but the house I owned and no longer felt welcome in. When I returned that evening, an envelope sat on my kitchen counter. Handwritten heading, proposal, Tyler's handwriting, 2 pages, an itemized investment pitch for a craft brewery. Initial capital required, 50,000, up from the 30 he'd mentioned Friday. Desperation inflating the numbers, financial projections pulled from nowhere, promises of returns. At the bottom, a sentence underlined twice. "This solves everything. We stay, you profit. Family stays together." I walked to the living room where they sat waiting and handed it back. "No." Ashley's face crumpled. "Dad, we're trying to compromise." "No," I repeated, and returned to my office with my dinner. Through the wall, I heard dishes slamming. Monday and Tuesday passed similarly. Ashley alternated between tears and silence. Tyler oscillated between threats and bargaining. I maintained my routine. Work, home, office, meals alone. Their presence became background noise, like traffic outside a window you've learned to ignore. Wednesday evening, Natalie arrived. She'd called that afternoon with an announcement, not a request. "Dad, we're coming over for dinner. Ryan and we need to talk as a family." They arrived at 6 carrying grocery bags. Natalie took over my kitchen. Ryan smiled his diplomat smile, shook my hand firmly. "Hope you don't mind us showing up." Natalie was worried. Family should support each other through difficult times. Ashley emerged from upstairs with her makeup perfect. No sign of her devastating illness from 3 days prior. Tyler appeared freshly showered, wearing a collared shirt for the first time in months, playing the reasonable adult. An intervention carefully staged, costumes and all. We sat for the meal they'd prepared. Chicken, rice, salad. Natalie poured wine. Ryan made small talk about real estate prices, the economy. Safe topics designed to establish rapport before the pivot. Everyone performed normally for exactly 12 minutes. I counted. Then Natalie shifted gears. "Dad, this house must be a lot to manage alone. All these rooms, the yard work, the maintenance. Have you thought about something smaller? A nice condo?" I cut my chicken. Chewed slowly. Ryan picked up the thread without missing a beat. "The real estate market is strong right now. Houses in Paradise Valley sell fast, you could get top dollar. Natalie touched the picture frame on the side table, adjusted it, that same territorial gesture. We'd help you move, of course, and whatever proceeds you got, well, it would be nice to share with family. Help Ashley and Tyler get started. Help Ryan and me with our house. Everyone benefits. There it was. Not the guest house, not inheritance someday. The whole house sold now. Proceeds divided among 4 people who hadn't paid a single mortgage installment in their lives. Dad, I'm just saying you're getting older. Her voice softened, but the calculation underneath it didn't. Wouldn't it be easier to have something manageable? Less responsibility? I set down my fork, looked at each of them in turn. Natalie, poised and patient. Ryan, nodding supportively. Ashley, leaning forward with rehearsed concern. Tyler, trying to look like a man with a plan instead of a man without a paycheck. 4 faces, 4 different masks, 1 agenda. I'm not selling my house. Natalie laughed lightly, edge underneath. Dad, no one's pressuring you. We're just concerned. I stood, pushed my chair back. Thank you for your concern. I'm fine. Good night. The scrape of my chair, the walk to my office, the door closing behind me. I could feel their shocked silence through the wall. Then the urgent whispers started. I grabbed my phone and dialed Reynolds. I need to see you tonight. It's urgent. I'll be at the office in 30 minutes. I waited until I heard their cars leave. Natalie's Mercedes first, then Tyler's Camry following behind, coordinating, always coordinating. I grabbed my keys and drove downtown. Reynolds' office was lit on the 23rd floor. He met me in the lobby, and I told him everything during the elevator ride up. The dinner, the pitch to sell my house, the coordinated performance. Then we accelerate, he said, pulling fresh documents from his desk. Everything transfers to trust management immediately. House, business, savings, full protection. He pulled up forms on his computer. We'll also change your bank account beneficiaries tonight. Remove your daughters entirely. I signed everything. Electronic signatures witnessed legal binding. 40 minutes later, I left with copies. The drive home felt different, lighter, like putting down a weight I hadn't realized I'd been carrying in both hands for years. Within 3 weeks, every asset I'd spent 4 decades building would be locked behind a legal wall they couldn't climb, couldn't tunnel under, couldn't charm their way through. At home, empty wine glasses sat on my coffee table. They'd probably spent the evening plotting on speakerphone after I left. Let them plot. Their window was closing and they didn't even know it. My phone showed 3 missed calls from Natalie. No messages. She sensed something had shifted at dinner. Maybe realized they'd shown their hand too clearly. Sell the house, split the money, everyone benefits. Everyone except the man who'd spent 40 years building everything they wanted to divide. 24 days remained on the eviction clock. 3 weeks until the trust was finalized. They had that long to enjoy feeling like they still had leverage. After that, the only thing they'd have was each other. And based on what I'd seen, that wasn't worth much. 2 weeks had passed since the eviction notice. 15 days remained. I spent the morning at the hardware store, going through the motions of normal life while preparing for what I'd planned for that evening. When I got home, I set the dining room table myself. 5 place settings. The good china I hadn't used since the girls were children, when their mother was still alive and holidays meant something besides financial negotiations. Cloth napkins, water glasses, the silver candlesticks from the hutch. At my seat, I placed a manila folder face down. Inside that folder sat 8 printed photographs. Ryan and a red-haired woman, time-stamped, geotagged, 2 hours before his wedding to my daughter. I'd looked at those photos so many times over the past 2 weeks that I'd memorized every detail. The way Ryan's hand curved around the back of her neck, the tilt of her head, the absolute absence of guilt on his face. I'd invited everyone, both daughters, both men. A family dinner, I'd said. Let's sit down and talk this through. My voice had been calm on the phone, almost warm. Natalie had sounded relieved, probably told the others the old man was finally ready to negotiate. They arrived separately, Natalie and Ryan first, 15 minutes early. I heard them in the living room, whispered coordination with Ashley and Tyler. Strategy session before sitting down. They thought this dinner was my surrender, the old man caving, ready to negotiate, ready to write one more check to keep the peace. I called them to the table. The tension was immediate. They sat, exchanged glances, waited for my opening. I served roasted chicken and vegetables. Simple meal, nothing elaborate. This wasn't about hospitality. We ate in near silence for 10 minutes. Forks scraping plates, water glasses lifted, the sound of 4 people performing normalcy while calculating their next move. Then Natalie started. "Dad, we've all been talking. The situation with Ashley, it's stressful for everyone. Maybe it's time to think about simplifying. The house, the business. It's a lot for one person." Ryan nodded. "No one's saying you can't handle it. We just want to help. Selling at the right time in this market, we could help you organize everything." Ashley leaned forward, gentle voice. "Dad, we're worried about you. All alone here. Wouldn't a condo be better?" I reached for the manila folder. "Before we continue, there's something you should see." Natalie picked it up, suspicious. "What is this?" "Photographs from your wedding. Particularly interesting are the shots of Ryan with a red-haired woman 2 hours before the ceremony on the venue terrace. The color left Ryan's face like water draining from a sink. Fast, visible, complete. He opened his mouth and nothing came out. Natalie opened the folder. I watched her eyes move across the first image, then the second. Her expression didn't crumble. It hardened, turned to stone. She flipped to the third photo, the one showing the woman's wedding ring pressed against Ryan's chest, and her jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscles working. "Where did you get these?" I ignored the question. "I also overheard a phone conversation between you and Ashley last week. Let me quote you directly. 2 more months of playing happy wife, then I file. Half those gifts are legally mine in Arizona. Ryan already agreed to 60-40 split." Your exact words, Natalie. "Easiest 45,000 I ever made." The room went dead silent, the kind of silence that has weight. Ashley's hand flew to her mouth. Tyler half stood from his chair, face red, veins visible at his temples. "You spied on us? You had no right." I raised one hand, palm out, flat. "Stop." Tyler sat. "I've created an irrevocable trust. My house, my business, my savings, everything I own is now legally protected. After my death, you'll receive the minimum required by Arizona law. Not a cent more." Natalie's voice rose, sharp now, the warmth stripped clean. "You can't do this, we're your family." I stood, pushed my chair back slowly, folded my napkin beside my plate with the same care I'd use signing a contract. "Ashley and Tyler have 15 days to find new housing. This conversation is over." "Dad." Natalie stood too, and something desperate flickered across her face before she could control it. "You're destroying this family. Over what? Some misunderstanding." I paused at the dining room doorway, didn't turn around. "I'm not destroying anything. I'm protecting what I built from people who saw me as a resource, not a father." I walked down the hall, closed my office door, locked it. Behind me, the eruption started. Natalie shouting, Ryan stammering, Ashley's sobs carrying down the hallway, Tyler cursing, his voice thick with the particular fury of a man who just realized his free ride has an expiration date. I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. Email from Reynolds sent an hour earlier. Trust documents ready for final signature. I typed back, 9 a.m. tomorrow. They could argue all night. It wouldn't change a single thing. The photos were on the table. The truth was spoken. The trust was nearly complete, and I'd already won before they even knew the game had changed. The next morning, I signed the final trust documents in Reynolds' conference room. Rebecca Lewis, the estate specialist he'd brought in, walked me through every page. Transfer of primary residence, business interests, bank accounts, investment portfolios, all of it moving behind a legal wall. "They can try to challenge it," Rebecca said, certain and calm. "But irrevocable trusts are extremely difficult to overturn. This is as protected as assets can be." I signed the last page. Done. 40 years of work. Secured. The 13 days that followed became a slow demonstration of who my family really was when they couldn't extract anything from me. Day 2 after the dinner. I found my coffee maker shattered on the kitchen floor. Tyler lounged at the table, newspaper spread in front of him. "Oh, that?" he shrugged. "Slipped out of my hands this morning. Accidents happen." I swept up the glass without comment. 13 days, I said, dropping the pieces in the trash. Day 4. I watched from the window as Ashley performed for our neighbor, Mrs. Coleman, across the back fence, dabbing her eyes with tissue, dramatic gestures, trembling chin. "He's throwing us out with nowhere to go. I don't know what's gotten into him." Mrs. Coleman looked uncomfortable, offered some vague reassurance. Ashley milked it for 15 minutes. I turned away. Let her audition for sympathy. It wouldn't pay her rent. Day 7. Natalie arrived with a woman carrying a clipboard and a professional smile. "Dad, this is Dr. Hayes. She's a psychologist. We thought it might help to talk." I remained standing, arms at my sides. I didn't agree to any evaluation. "Mr. Whitaker, your daughter is concerned about recent behavioral changes, sudden decisions, cutting off family. These can sometimes indicate—" "Stop." I looked at Natalie. "Out. Both of you. Now." "Dad, she's trying to help." "If you just— This is my house. You're leaving." They left, but the message was clear. They were building a competency case, trying to establish that I'd lost my mind, that these decisions weren't rational, that maybe someone else should be making them. I called Reynolds that evening and told him. He wasn't surprised. "This is common," he said. "We've documented everything properly. Your decisions are clearly those of a competent adult protecting his assets. If they pursue that angle, they'll lose." Day 10. I came home from the store to find my office door slightly ajar. I always closed it completely. On my desk, the trust documents sat exactly where I'd left them, almost exactly. The corner was bent differently. Someone had read them. That evening, Ashley was quieter than usual. Tyler kept glancing at her, nervous, quick looks. They knew now, really knew. The trust was real. The money was gone, not spent, not hidden, legally removed from their reach, permanently. Day 12. Ashley knocked on my office door alone. Afternoon light coming through the window. Tyler wasn't with her. "Dad, can we talk? Just us." I gestured to the chair. She sat, tissue already in hand, eyes red. "I've been thinking about everything. You were right about Tyler, about how we've been living. He's not a good influence on me. I see that now." She leaned forward, voice trembling. "I've made terrible mistakes. I'm begging for your forgiveness. Another chance. I could change. I could be the daughter you deserve." The performance was flawless. Trembling voice, vulnerable posture, eyes wet at precisely the right moments. Every manipulation technique in her arsenal deployed with the skill of someone who'd been practicing her whole life. I let the silence stretch. "If you'd truly realized your mistakes, Ashley, you wouldn't have come asking for forgiveness as a transaction. You'd have come without expecting anything in return." I kept my voice even. "But you're asking for the house, for money, for me to reverse the trust." "No, you want me to believe Tyler corrupted you, that you're a victim. But I heard you on the phone with Natalie planning this together. You were laughing, both of you, about how easy I was, about how I always cave." Her face changed. The tears stopped like a faucet turned off. Her voice went flat and hard, the real voice underneath all the performances. "Fine, you want to be alone, but don't expect us to care what happens to you." 8 days, Ashley, start packing." She turned and walked out. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the frame. Through the ceiling, stomping, Tyler's voice questioning. Then Ashley's angry response, words muffled, but tone unmistakable. She was telling him it hadn't worked, that I wouldn't break. That they actually needed to find somewhere to live. Reality finally forcing its way through. The 30th day. I pulled into my driveway at 10 in the morning. The sheriff's vehicle arrived 30 seconds behind me. Reynolds' car followed. We'd coordinated this. Official, legal, no room for argument. Deputy Walker stepped out, mid-40s, experienced professional. "Mr. Whitaker," he shook my hand. "Let's get this done." Reynolds joined us, briefcase in hand. "Everything's in order. The notice was properly served. The 30 days have elapsed. They're officially trespassing. We walked to my front door together. My house, my property. But I knocked anyway. 3 firm knocks. Silence. Then Tyler's voice, muffled. "Go away, you can't do this." Walker stepped forward. "Sir, this is Deputy Walker with the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. I'm here to enforce a legal eviction order. Open the door now, or I'll be forced to open it myself. Refusal becomes criminal trespass." A long pause, whispered argument inside. Then the door cracked open. Ashley's face appeared, red eyes, defiant expression trying to mask panic and failing at both. Walker pushed the door wider, entered professionally. Reynolds and I followed. The living room looked like a war zone. Clothes scattered everywhere, pizza boxes stacked on my coffee table, beer cans on every surface, but no packed boxes, nothing ready. Nothing prepared for the departure they'd had 30 days to arrange. "You folks weren't planning on leaving, were you?" Walker surveyed the room, making notes. "You have 2 hours to collect personal belongings. Clothes, personal items, no furniture, no fixtures. The clock starts now." 2 hours? Ashley's voice pitched high. "We can't possibly." "You've had 30 days, Mum. 2 hours is generous." Tyler appeared from the hallway, unshaven, jaw clenched. "This is insane. We have rights." Reynolds' voice cut through clean and final. "You have 0 rights to this property. No lease, no rental agreement, no ownership claim. This is the last day." Tyler looked at me, searching for something. The old man, the pushover, the wallet with a heartbeat. Whatever he was looking for, he didn't find it. "You're really doing this? Your own daughter?" I didn't respond. Didn't need to. What followed was 2 hours of chaos in slow motion. Ashley frantically stuffing clothes into garbage bags, crying intermittently. Tyler throwing belongings into a duffel bag with aggressive movements, muttering under his breath. Ashley tried catching my eye multiple times. The manipulation playbook was still open, but I'd memorized every page. 2 hours later, they carried the last bags to their car, an older sedan, dented, cramped. At the car, Ashley turned for one final attempt. "You'll regret this. When you're alone and need help, don't come crying to us." I met her eyes. "I won't." They drove away. Ashley's car disappeared down the street, taking their presents, their demands, their schemes with it. Walker handed me paperwork. "They're officially out. If they return without permission, call immediately. That's criminal trespass." Reynolds shook my hand. "Well done. Most people cave before it gets to this point. You held the line." After they left, I walked through the house slowly, room by room. The living room where Tyler had sprawled across my recliner for 4 years, leaving rings on the coffee table and crumbs in the cushions. The kitchen where Ashley had stood every other day with her hand out, asking for grocery money, spa money, car money, whatever currency her entitlement had settled on that morning. Upstairs, the guest room they'd occupied like permanent royalty, the walls scuffed, the carpet stained, the closet still holding hangers they hadn't bothered to take. I opened every window in the house, let the desert air push through. The smell of them, of stale beer and cheap perfume and resentment, began to thin out. Empty now. All of it. Mine. That evening, Natalie called. I almost didn't answer, but something in me needed to hear what she'd say. "I hope you're satisfied." Her voice was ice. "You destroyed this family, everything we had. Was it worth it?" "I didn't destroy the family, Natalie. I stopped letting it destroy me." Silence on the line. Then her voice cracked, just slightly, before she regained control. "You've changed. I don't even know who you are anymore." "I'm the same person. I just stopped pretending I didn't notice being used." "We'll see how long you last alone. You'll need us eventually." She hung up. 3 days later, a text from an unknown number. Ryan. I read it standing in my kitchen, morning light coming through the window, the house quiet in a way that still felt new and precious. "I saw the photos. I know you know. Look, Megan knew about my relationship too. This whole marriage was an arrangement. We're divorcing anyway. I'm asking you to stay out of it. I can make it worth your while. $10K to let this play out quietly." I read it twice, let each sentence land. The whole marriage was an arrangement. Megan knew both of them from the very beginning. The ceremony, the vows, the $65,000, the white dress, the string quartet, the botanical gardens, the 200 guests who wrote generous checks because they trusted me, and I'd trusted my daughter. All of it theater. Every toast, every dance, every smile captured by Diane's camera. Performance. Daniel Brooks handing over $15,000 to a con man in a rented tuxedo, telling him to start his life right. Ryan pocketing that check the same way he'd pocketed everything else, with a smile and a promise he never intended to keep. And now he wanted to pay me $10,000 to stay quiet, like I was just another variable in his spreadsheet. I deleted the text and blocked the number. 3 weeks after the eviction. Late August. I sat on my terrace with morning coffee, watching the sun climb over Paradise Valley. The air was already warm, but up on the hillside, a breeze made it bearable. Quiet. Completely quiet except for birds and the distant hum of the city below. The coffee maker worked. I'd replaced the one Tyler smashed the day after they left. Small thing, but it mattered. Everything worked now. The television remote stayed where I put it. My chair held only me. The refrigerator contained food I'd bought, eaten at my pace. Simple things. Revolutionary things. Ashley had called twice that week. I'd let both go to voicemail, deleted the messages without listening. She and Tyler had found an apartment on the outskirts. Tyler had taken some regular job. They were figuring it out. Without my money, without my house. Good. Natalie had called once, 2 weeks prior, asking for $20,000 for a down payment after the divorce. I'd said one word, no, then hung up. She and Ryan had divorced as planned. The court had sorted through their wedding gift situation. Both lost money to lawyers. Ironic justice. They'd schemed to collect cash and ended up spending most of it on legal fees to divide what remained. The mail arrived mid-morning. An envelope from Reynolds's firm. Heavy paper. I opened it on the terrace. All trust documents have been finalized and filed with the state. Your business interests, residence, and financial accounts have been transferred to trust management. Estate distribution instructions are secured. You maintain full control during your lifetime with ironclad protection thereafter. I read it twice. Set it aside. Complete. Legal fortress built. Every asset protected. Every decision mine. For the first time in years, the future belonged to me, not to whoever could cry the loudest or scheme the fastest. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost let it go. Mr. Whitaker, a woman's voice, familiar this time, warm, not trembling. This is Diane Miller, from your daughter's wedding. I hope you don't mind me calling. I've been thinking about you, wondering how things turned out. Diane, the woman who'd shown me the truth when everyone else was selling me a lie. No, I don't mind at all. Actually, I'm glad you called. Relief in her voice. I wasn't sure if I should. That day in my studio showing you those photos, I've thought about it so many times. I hope I did the right thing. You did? You absolutely did. Those photos changed everything. You gave me truth when everyone around me was feeding me a version of reality designed to keep the money flowing. And how are things now, if you don't mind me asking? I looked out over the valley, the morning light catching the desert hills, turning them gold and copper and rust. My terrace, my view, my silence. Things are good, Diane. For the first time in a very long time, maybe years, things are truly good. I'm so glad. I surprised myself with what came out of my mouth next. Would you like to get coffee sometime? I'd like to thank you properly. And honestly, it would just be nice to talk to someone who doesn't want anything from me. She was smiling. I could hear it. I'd like that. How about next week? Next week sounds perfect. After we hung up, I stayed on the terrace. Coffee with Diane next week. A guitar lesson on Wednesday. Something I'd wanted to learn for 40 years and never made time for, because there was always another check to write, another demand to meet. Volunteer shift at the senior center on Friday, doing repairs for people who needed the help and appreciated it, without treating it like something they were owed. A life built around what I chose, not what others extracted. My daughters thought I'd chosen loneliness over love. They were wrong. I'd chosen myself over their version of love, which looked suspiciously like a long, slow robbery dressed up in family photos and holiday dinners. I'd chosen peace over performance, truth over comfortable lies that cost $65,000 and 4 years of my life. Ashley would call again, I'd let it ring. Tyler might text, I'd delete it. Natalie might demand, I'd decline. They were learning to solve their own problems for the first time in their adult lives. I was learning to let them. I stood and walked to the terrace railing, looked out over Paradise Valley. The sun was high now, the desert sharp and bright and real. My home, my view, my peace. Alone, yes, but free. And for the first time in years, maybe the first time ever, that was exactly what I wanted. The next chapter was mine, no one else's. And that was worth everything I'd lost to find it. What would you do in this situation? Be honest, or did this remind you of someone? Tell me in the comments. And if this made you think about your own relationship, I left something in the description that can help you build something stronger. Subscribe if you want more stories like this every day, and share this with someone who needs to hear this story.